What's up, everybody, and welcome to the channel. Coming to you outside on a beautiful night where I'm at. I'm hoping you're enjoying a beautiful night. But either way, I have an excellent video for you because this is very important for the future of UFL, what we're about to discuss, which is finding the missing puzzle piece. Now, let me explain what I mean by that. This is a game from a stream the other night. You see here, I'm about to create a scoring chance and was a bit unlucky there. But you seen there, I drove the inline and made a great pass through an ocean of defenders. After that, which I was lucky to even get a shot off, the opponent comes down on the counter and you see the difference. I'm actually manually defending because this is preparation for the new patch, the new update. Now, my opponent scores, no big deal, because I am working on the future of the game, not this broken defense that is making the current game unplayable. I'm not playing to win. I'm not playing for anything now other than training to win in the future. It's way more important. The game right now, wins mean nothing. Really, this game means nothing. There's nowhere to go. There's nothing to do. Even once they fix the gameplay, that's a whole nother issue. But for now, we're just talking about gameplay. You see here what the opponent is doing. Sitting back with all these players in the box. It doesn't matter how much better I am at the game than my opponent. Doesn't matter how much I control the ball, because he has a million players in the box. He's not going to touch his defenders. He's going to sit there and hold R1 whenever I get into a dangerous spot, and other than that, hope that I run into one of the million players that he has in the way of the goal. Zero skill. From there, he could play me where I could be sitting back. As you see, I'm playing a 3-back because I want to work on my manual defending. If I was truly playing this to win, I would do the same thing as him, and I would sit a million guys behind the ball, and most likely we would end in a boring 0-0 tie. But that would be a total waste of my time, just like how this player is playing this Huggies, whatever. Just look for the PSN Huggies. I'm sure many of you played them just because we all play the same few players even playing this broken game, right? And you'll know what I'm talking about. So if you play him where you sit back as well, maybe you're just trying to be a rat too for now because you're sick of losing to rats. I totally get it. And then this kind of thing wouldn't happen. Even when he has open opportunities, you see there, he can't even really capitalize on them. He just had that one lucky goal where he got in. But again, we're not going for wins. We're going to try to train and prepare for when defense becomes manual and when the game hopefully gets to at least a place where there's somewhat of a skill gap so we can start grinding again and have a little bit of fun. But what I was talking about in the title of this is exactly what this video is about, which is finding the missing puzzle piece. And I say missing, not lost, or not they need to create the puzzle piece to go in the last slot or whatever you want to call it with that analogy. The bottom line is, when the game first came out, that last puzzle piece was put right into place. It was proper spacing on the defense. How you see my defense right now in a 3-back is exactly how a 4-back or a 5-back system was too. The defenders were spread out like they would be in a real game across the pitch, and then you manually had to move them, right, to block a shot or to block a passing lane or a dribbling lane. In the process of trying to please, I guess what you would say would be the casual players that weren't having much luck manual defending because they don't know football or they don't possess that skill, they ended up destroying their system, their whole, let's call it programming, whatever, coding, and all of a sudden they made it where the defenders were standing next to each other. They made it where the defenders basically sat on top of the goalkeeper, and so you had this ability for these rat players to sit 8 players in the box, make it almost impossible for the opponent to score, and on top of that, you made AI-assisted defending, right, where you hold R1 and the defender controlled by AI comes and helps. They made that super powerful. So now you had 8 players in front of the goal. The opponent wouldn't even have to, touch their defenders. You're dribbling. You have no lanes to go through because there's a million players in the way, right? Doesn't matter how good your buildup is, because once you get to the box, there's nothing you can do, as you see here. This is what UFL has turned into. Literally, you can try to get lucky like I did at the very beginning of the game. And honestly, that's kind of the only thing I could go for if I was just going for the win, is drive the inline and try to hope I can connect a pass across the mouth of the goal for a tap in. But who wants to do that? It's boring. It's completely one-dimensional, right? And again, we're training for the future of this game. So I kept trying to attack the normal way. And, it's pretty much pointless because there's just so many defenders. He didn't even have to do any work there, by the way. I just would try to find a gap and try to get lucky to go through the hole. And it was almost impossible. So again, you see this Huggies, whatever his name is. You can pause and read it. If you play this player, feel free to do whatever you want against him. Be the biggest rat, go up 1-0, hold the ball in the back. Do everything that this type of player does to you because they want to waste, everyone's time. You can waste their time. But anyway, that's a petty little side note. And yes, I will be petty with this type of rat because doing this when a game's broken anyway, it's so pointless. But that's the problem. If Strikerz doesn't find that missing piece and get back to how the game was originally with this defensive, setup with depth and width, even if they remove the AI, which I know they are, or at least they're minimizing it, so no longer will players be able to not control the defender and still make tackles and win balls and stuff. Even if they get rid of that, but they don't fix the width and depth of the defense, you're just going to have no AI help, but you're going to have 8 players you have to get through to score. It's still not going to fix the game, right? Now, we can talk about all the million other issues, right? So it's not over after that. How shallow the game is, the lack of modes, the lack of motivation to build because you just max out the players you have at 91 or you go buy all the meta players and then there's nothing to do. There's no other players to get and the game becomes boring, right? Now, once the gameplay is fixed, assuming they can get this one piece found and put back into place where the width and the depth of the defense is fixed. That's the missing piece. Then we can start talking about the rest. At least then you put a skill gap back into your game, and then we can work on all of these other bugs and glitches and stuff like that. Now, from there, it becomes, are Strikerz even capable of, retracting all this mess that they made, since the initial release to even undo how the game is now? Because apparently, I don't know anything about coding, but apparently as you try to fix things and you break more things, it's not as easy as people think to just revert back to how it was. Because along the way, you added all this different coding, so then you try to remove some things to get the defense back to where it was, but you break more things, which essentially looks like what happened. Every patch, as they tried to fix one thing, they would break another. So who knows if finding that last piece and fixing the width and the depth will even work, because maybe they'll just break so many other things that the game is still unplayable. But either way, they have to try, because if the width and the depth isn't changed, meaning if every time you attack, you see a wall of the opposition's players in their box sitting in front of the goal, the game is pointless. Even if they totally remove AI, they could get rid of the R1 button altogether and have no AI assistance, not even closing the space down, which I believe that's important to have. Since controlling 11 players is hard, you need to have the ability to pull with an AI assist, pull the defender into a certain place, but then you have to take that defender over and manually make the tackle or slide right into the angle to cut off the pass or stop a dribble, right? That's where the AI has to stop. It can't do that work for you, but it is important to have that. However, even if they do that right, if they don't fix the width and the depth of the defense, which is what the missing piece is, I'll say for the 100th time, then the rest of the puzzle doesn't matter, right? But after that, then we have to find out, finding that last piece and fitting it in, does that then wreck all the other puzzle pieces because of, how it's like to code a game and they start breaking other things? I don't know. There's people out there, there's players out there that can leave in the comments section that know more about coding, but FC, I know, had this problem too, and that's why it was a huge undertaking, and apparently why it took so many years to get this last huge patch out, because it's easier said than done to just, take things out where they made mistakes and go back to, a previous version of the game where things were better. So we will have to see. But talking about all the different modes they need to add, talking about fixing passing and through balls and all these things, yes, they need to do that. However, just like you see in this gameplay, it will be this over and over again if they don't find that missing piece and fix the width and the depth. If you want an example of what the game looked like before this, what that missing piece looks like when it's in place, just go back to video footage from the beginning, right? You can scroll back through my videos and go through, I don't know, my daily grind, episodes 1, 2, 3, whatever. You can go all the way back to the beginning of my channel, which was simultaneous with the release of this game, and you could see what the defense actually looked like at the beginning with the spacing and the depth. And it created the ability to freely play, to have skill, having to actually defend manually, right? It created holes for the opposition to slice through, either dribbling or passing if the opponent wasn't defending well. That's what you need. You can't have no-skill players like this, whoever this Huggies is, being able to do these type of things, right? Now, obviously, once we got to a certain point, it didn't matter. I was playing a 3-back. I was just training for the future of the game. But it still served as an ugly, ugly lesson into why UFL is in such big trouble. Because a player who doesn't have any skill, this is, by the way, the player that I beat when I put all my players in all different positions. And then when I was grinding up, I faced him sometimes, and you can look back too, again, through my videos. It's all out there. This is a player that I beat 4, 5, 6 to nothing, right? Even when games weren't, that high scores. It was 1, 2, nothing typically. This is a player I just destroyed. Like I said, I was beating him with Endrick and Rashford at center back, but in this game, playing a 3-back, trying to manually work on defending, which is very hard because there's a lack of fluidity. However, we still need to get back to that type of defending with the spacing, the width, and the depth, no matter how ugly it may be, with the lack of animations and the lack of, mobility between the attackers and the defenders, right? There's not much there. It's like you either cleanly win a tackle and run through the attacker, or the attacker cleanly beats you. There's no tussling. There's no close calls. There's no, they're lacking any type of depth to their defense, right? Similar to many parts of their game. However, even with that being said, the defense needs to get back to being manual, and they need to get back to creating or allowing space in the game for players to attack through. So that is the missing piece I'm talking about. That is the only thing we should be discussing and drilling Strikerz, drilling Eugene on, finding out if they fix that depth in that spacing. Because we've been making the mistake, by we I mean including me, of talking about all the variety of things they do need to fix, and it is true. But this right here, what you see on the screen right now, is the number one A1 issue. If this is not fixed, nothing else matters. 5 players sitting on the 6-yard box with 3 more in front, and they're all right next to each other inside the 18, right? Not even just all the way back, but inside the 18. So it's depth and width. If that isn't fixed, nothing else matters. And that is with knowing that not everybody plays this way, right? I played several games after this, including the one you see here, where it was regular defense and where skill actually came into play. And both myself and my opponent found ourselves in good situations on the attack. Both of us made good defensive plays. Both of us made good attacking plays. This game, I think I ended up winning the rest of the night. I can't remember. I might have lost one more. You can check the stream, but I did win several, even being out teamed. I have pretty much a 78, lower 80, except for, my wingbacks in Van de Ven. And everyone else is pretty much at 91s. So on that side of it, it's okay. Like, you can still compete with lower rated players, which is a good thing. You want that for those players that aren't willing to go buy all the meta players, right? Now, if you grinded up your team, that's fine. But I'm saying this shows that you can play with a lower skilled team, lower rated team. And if you have skill, you can still compete. So that part of it, we're good. That's why it's only one missing piece that needs to be found, which is fixing the width and the depth. Then you can get to games where every game is like this. And what will happen then is that Huggies Rat that I played last game, he will end up getting dominated like he did before, the defense was what it was. And that's how it should be, because you need to have skill to make any type of sports game, right, a relevant game. If you take skill out of it, then there is no point. If you make it to where you literally don't have to touch your controller and you win the ball, and then you just hold down the sprint button and try to counter your opponent who has all their players up because they don't just want a 0-0 tie, well, that's not skill, right? That's allowing for rats like Huggies. Again, he's just the prime example of the mini rats there are for this video. The prime example for the mini rats there are. And that's the problem, is that you can't leave that option because you're going to get this infestation of players that will play that broken way, right? If everyone decided to play how me and my opponent in this game are, then of course it would be fine. You would just say, man, it's silly that that's even an option, but luckily no one uses it because it's a waste of time. Obviously, that's not the real world. The real world is you are going to get on and you are going to be lucky if you have a game like I'm playing now. And even here, right, even here, when I'm playing balanced, right, which, you know, I pause it, I believe, even in this game and show, the defense is still broken, right? It's better than if you go all out and put your depth all the way back and your width all the way narrow. But even on balance right now, because Strikerz broke the defense, you see how far back the defense sits for both players. But it doesn't matter because they need to fix it either way, since there are the rats that are going to come out of the woodwork when there's a game like this and they can exploit something and get wins. It seems like that's what matters to them. Like, they're so used to losing, I guess. I don't know for sure. I've never been a rat, but that's what my guess is. Because there's no other reason why you would decide to take an exploit and run with it to get wins. Because guess what? It's an exploit. It's not meant to be, the game's not meant to be played like that, so surely it's going to get removed eventually. Who knows how long it will take, but when you utilize this and you get used to this, right, playing 8 players, not touching your defense, just literally probably putting your controller down while, you know, the attackers, your opponent runs into your wall of defenders, and you hold sprint, run down the field and shoot. Like, you get used to playing like that, they take the exploit out, and now you're in trouble. The same thing you saw with FC. Nobody thought that EA Sports would ever fix it because it was years and years, but guess what? They did, and every one of those rats quit, and I'm guaranteeing you a good number of those FC rats that no longer can use those exploits to compete, I guarantee you a big number of them ran over here to UFL. Whereas if UFL remained how it was at the beginning, none of those rats would have had a place to go right now. They would have tried eFootball and they would have failed there too, and they would have just been done with football games. Or they would have decided to play and start learning skill, and they would have got destroyed along the way, and rightfully so. But that's the point, is that you see from this game here, you can have good football being played. It's there. It's just you cannot leave that option in there to have such a broken defense. Not to mention, you shouldn't have teams trying to play a balanced defense, right, and have players still, you know, where defenders are holding hands and sitting almost in or even inside the box at a balanced setting. So, bottom line, for the last time, Strikerz, you need to fix the depth and the width of the defense. It needs to get closer to the beginning. Your defenders need to be spread out along the width of the field, and they cannot sit as far back so that players have to manually defend, manually move their players into good positioning. If you do not fix that, nothing else matters. So, with that being said, we will get to harping on them, trying to get more details about this patch, which, you know, they should be providing more anyway. There's no doubt that they know how important this is. And we will try to get it out of them if this width and depth is being worked on. If not, they better get to work and get it added before the release of this update. Otherwise, for the last time, none of the other stuff will matter. So, keep grinding, keep having fun, and I'll see you on the next one. Peace out.